You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Okay, Robb Pearlman and Jordan Hoffman are with me today, the authors of the Star Trek Book of Friendship. And let me tell you both, first of all, thank you for being here. But I have been so excited to have this conversation with you because I received this book in the mail and I read it, and it's just really wonderful. So let me just start off by saying, Robb, we know your books in Star Trek and other fandoms pretty well. Jordan, of course, we know you from the conventions and from the Engage podcast. But how do you guys know each other?
That is a fun question. And first of all, thank you for having us, and thank you for saying nice things about the book. Robb and I met in one of the least Star Trek places imaginable. We met at the Cabo Wabo Sammy Hagar restaurant in Las Vegas, Nevada, because as you mentioned, I have done and continue to do various things for the Star Trek conventions, moderating panels, leading fan chats and whatnot. And Robb has been writing Star Trek books this is his 10th Star Trek book. So, and has a whole other life in publishing. So we were both in Las Vegas for one of the conventions, and a fella who worked at the time CBS, now called Paramount Global, was like, "Hey, we're all going out to dinner. You guys want to come?" And when I hear free meal, I always say yes, and Robb does too. So
that's good policy.
We jumped in the taxi and ended up there were a good number of people at this dinner, a dozen people or so, and we were sort of stuck in the corner, and it's like, "Oh, hello, nice to meet you. Hello, nice to meet you." And then after about 60 seconds, we realized that I had just found one of my new best friends.
Yeah, it went very quickly from "who's this guy" to "who is this guy?"
And when was this? A few years ago?
It was 2014, give or take, 2015. I don't know, something like that.
I would say it's about at least 10 years. Yeah.
Okay, a while ago.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Was this a Star Trek convention, or is this something that was unrelated? Yes,
it was for Star Trek. Yeah, it was for Star Trek for sure. And and I remember, I remember like going to the restroom of the Cabo Wabo. Is it called Cabo Wabo? Sammy Hagar's Cabo Wabo Wild.
Yeah.
And like looking at the pictures on the wall, I'm just like, what am I doing here? What is it? How did I end up in this weird spot? Not that I'm anti Sammy Hagar. He seems like a nice enough chap, but I don't know. It was one of those weird experiences. And who'd have thunk all this time later, we would collaborate on a book about Star Trek friendships.
Yeah,
the meal was forgettable, but our friendship is unforgettable.
Wow. Okay. Actually, I think that's a wonderful story because I've been to the conventions a few times. I know, Jordan, I've run into you a few times there. And those connections, those friendships that you make, not sitting in the audiences of the big panels or whatever, but the connections that you make because some people are going off campus, or some people are hanging out at the bar, or some people are doing whatever activity. Those are the ones that kind of lead to your lifelong friendships with people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's a lot of what the book is about. And Robb can talk about how he was inspired to create the book because it was his idea originally. But, the Chicago convention just ended, and I was only there for one day because scheduling was weird, but I did pop in for a day, and I'm glad I did. And, I do maintain a number of quote unquote Star Trek friendships, people that I've really grown to care about, that have grown, it's a group chat about Star Trek that's been going on for years. Mm-hmm. And I got to see some of those people again in the real world. And it's like, oh, it's we don't only just talk about Janeway and stuff, but we mostly do, but you'll never run out of stuff to talk about. And it has become a genuine thing. And this exists across all fandoms, I'm sure, but for Star Trek, it's a little bit special because Star Trek is special. So, and Robb, did you not have the revelation to create this book at a convention, or was it something like that? Or
yeah, pretty much. As you very generously said, this is my 10th Star Trek book, and I try to have each Star Trek book I do mean something to people. there has to be a purpose for it. It's not just another book that's out there. And at one of the conventions, I think, Jordan, you were there with me. I can't remember which one it was at. But I noticed pretty strikingly how deep the friendships I was seeing among the other fans were. Aside from Jordan and I sort of being on stage and talking about Star Trek characters, I was looking out into the crowd and seeing these people who really only see each other maybe once, maybe twice a year, who are all brought together by their love of Star Trek. And even though they may not have ever have crossed paths in the real world because they live across the country, across the world, literally speak a different language from one another, they have different jobs, they have different life experiences, different backgrounds. They were able to come together and become friends initially because of Star Trek, and then real friends in real life, talking about their lives and encouraging one another and supporting one another through job changes or marriages or deaths or new babies or just other experiences, and going on other kinds of vacations together. So I thought if there was a way to sort of do double duty in a book where we're talking about the Star Trek friends that everybody knows and everybody loves, that's really sort of the basis of the show, in addition to the science stuff and the adventure and the daring do and the great stuff that's happening, and meld that and make it relatable to real life experiences that people and fans are sharing, then we're doing a good thing. And that's what the book is.
And I can tell that this book is like really written with fans and fans' friendships in mind, because there's a dedication page. I opened that and I just thought, that's wonderful. It's clearly something that is intended for you to give as a gift to someone that you experience that friendship with. And I think that's a wonderful little addition that is just it's wonderful.
Well, that's certainly the hope. Certainly the hope is that everybody who wants to will therefore have to buy 2 copies, one for themselves and one to give away, which doesn't hurt the bottom line, but also is a friendly gesture, because I think what we talk about in the meat of the book, which is basically a dialogue between Robb and myself, is we're talking about different episodes, different characters, different incidents from the show, and time and again just saying, oh, and it's so great because Spock will do anything for Kirk. Bones will do anything for Spock. But B'Elanna will do anything for Janeway. All these relationships that mean so much. That I mean, it's funny because I think for me that is what makes me come back to Star Trek more and more. It's not just the weirdness of like, oh, the Bajorans have this unique, philosophy, and the ships and the nacelles. I mean, that is a lot of it. Like, oh, they're going through time. That's kind of what gets you in at first. But I think the thing that makes you rewatch the show is that so many of these characters just have these unique relationships, and it is an office show. They're on their job. They're clocking in, but they're working beta shift. They're at the job. It's like, it's Sam and Diane are at work at Cheers. Kirk and Spock are at work on the bridge of the Enterprise. As weird as that sounds. So it's all about those connections and very rich, fertile soil.
None of those stories, none of those adventures, none of the movies would ever work if you don't care about the characters and their relationships with one another. Sometimes those are the biggest stakes involved.
So, Jordan, you mentioned that the format of the book kind of takes the form of a conversation between the two of you, and also some other special guests in there too. Why did you guys choose to have this as a conversation rather than just laying out, here's all the friendships and why they're special?
Well, it's very funny because in the early days we were thinking about, how will this book look? Will it be a list of dossiers? Will it be like a lot of maps connecting Bones and Spock and everybody else? And Robb and I wrote this over during the thick of the pandemic, pre-vaccination times, when we weren't going to meet up in person to do it. So it was all done via Zoom. And we're having we're allegedly having one of our initial brainstorming sessions. So what do two Star Trek fans who like to tell jokes do when they're supposed to be doing their work? Is we start making jokes about Star Trek and talking about it and just getting excited and just having a conversation. And Rob, in his infinite wisdom, the bolt of lightning came from above and said, why are we killing ourselves trying to come up with a format? This is the format. We're doing the format right now by just kind of yammering about that moment at the end of City on the Edge of Forever when Kirk has to stop Bones from saving Edith Keeler, and Spock, he's not emotional, but he understands the pain Kirk is going through, which is something that I could talk about all week. And he's like, this is the conversation. So what we did then is we just scheduled a group of talks every Wednesday at 10 a.m. We would just get together over Zoom and talk for an hour and give each other assignments for the next week, because we knew we were going to hit X amount of relationships. We got to do Chekhov and Sulu. We got to do, Saru and Michael Burnham. We got to do all these people down the line. And then once we get to it, we'll have, an archive of conversations. And then from there, we sculpted the book. So I don't remember the exact number of hours we did, Rob, but it was a lot of, by the time it was all transcribed, it was a big stack. And then we kind of went in and turned it into the blistering, brilliant, scintillating prose that you read today.
Yeah.
And hopefully enjoy.
Yeah. When I'm putting together a book, whether it's as a publisher or an author, or even when I'm reading a book as a fan, I think the most successful books feel authentic. And having another list of Star Trek characters and friendships just seemed boring and not particularly unique or special. And I really wanted it to feel as authentic to our Star Trek experience as it would other fans' experiences too. And it just seemed a really organic way of doing it, because you hear our personalities throughout the book, but you're also part of that conversation. So we're never saying these are the top 3 friendships in Star Trek. Right. We're going from friendship to friendship, talking about them and inviting people into the conversation, which is a great part of Star Trek fandom. You want more people on the bridge.
Yeah. And part of it is like me saying, you like that? Well, what is it that you love about that, Rob? And he'll explain his and so be like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's something I hadn't really thought about. And just again, behind the scenes, the fact that we weren't on stage having this conversation meant that, on week 5, we could say, oh, last week we really should have talked about, we were talking about Odo and Quark, but we never mentioned episode blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, how did we forget that? So, we made sure to watch it and then say some thoughts about it. And, it was able to slip that in there. That's the beauty of not doing everything live. So
yes. Yeah. When we're on a panel, we have maybe half an hour or 45 minutes to get everything out there and then get questions. So we were able to, at midnight, text each other and be like, oh, I forgot to talk about that thing.
Well, I think it comes out really good. It was one of the things I was going to mention, is that this is you cover a lot of ground, and the conversation feels authentic, but it really flows. It goes really quickly, but you feel like you get a lot of information in there, and that's a really unique feature, I think, of this. I wanted to pivot a little bit and talk about the illustrations. So the illustrations are done by J.K. Woodward. And hang on, I want to find my favorite one. Where is it?
Oh, which one will it be?
Oh.
It's this one. It's this one. With Chekhov and Sulu. I think it just so perfectly encapsulates their little side-eye thing that they have going. And anyway, it's beautifully illustrated. Why did you choose to go with that as opposed to just like using screenshots or something like that?
We wanted, I think going back to the earlier point, we wanted the entire book to feel authentic. And J.K. Woodward is one of our Star Trek friends. And we knew that not only would he be able to do incredible likenesses of the characters, but as a Star Trek fan, he gets it. So there's all of the love and the subtext that he can put into all of those pieces of art. So for that image, and I'm so glad you picked it out, all we said was it's Chekhov and Sulu looking at each other. And then he took it and ran with it. So we knew the characters and the art was in incredibly good hands.
Yeah, I love the fact that it's a mix of some of the images are direct. They're basically painted screenshots. You know, they are exactly as from the show or the movie. But some of them are his interpretation. And some of them are images that you've never seen before, or a shot from the show, but from a weird point of, you know, the camera, so to speak, is in a weird spot or something. So there are some images that are totally his imagination. And for hardcore fans, you can really go in there and look around. We didn't go too heavy on the Easter eggs because, you know, you can go down that road and you just never stop. But there are a few little jokes in there in the imagery. If you look hard, you'll come across a handful, and that's always fun. I think the book as a whole, I mean, I like the fact that someone who's watched every episode and would tune into a show like this and be a hardcore fan is gonna hopefully like this book. But someone who's like, oh yeah, I've seen the movies. Oh yeah, I saw a couple of episodes of Voyager when I was in school. I always liked it. I think they can pick this up and get it, and hopefully it can inspire them to go back and plug in the gaps and watch more stuff. But I don't think the barrier of entry is too high for people who are not hardcore fans.
This book is coming out a few months after my last one, called Starfleet Is, and we really wanted to differentiate them in the marketplace. Starfleet Is does have screen grabs in it, so, you know, again, we wanted this one to feel different and special and unique.
So listen, this book, the Star Trek Book of Friendship, is, you know, it really trades on you guys's and your guys's friendship and the strength thereof, and also talking about Star Trek. So I wanted to take a moment to play a small game with you guys. Now, there's no pressure, but, you know, if people don't think you're genuine friends, no one's going to buy the book. So.
His favorite color is blue.
Actually, that was going to be my first question for you, Jordan. What is Robb's favorite color? Pop quiz.
I think Rob's favorite color is probably, well, they say always go with your first instinct, and I would say his favorite color is blue, but I would say if he's wearing his marketing hat, his favorite color is pink, because Robb is the author of the outstanding book for families of all ages called Pink is for Boys, which is a tremendous book about inclusivity and the gender spectrum. And I know my favorite color when I'm around Robb is pink, so I'm saying pink.
What's the answer, Robb, to put you on the spot? What's your favorite color?
It's blue.
Yeah, I knew that.
You were right.
I knew that, but I'm trying to push your other book, Robb. Come on, work with me here.
But I'm going to turn the tables now and ask Robb, what do you think Jordan's favorite flavor of cookie is?
Oh. I'm trying to think what we had at the dessert bar. I mean, it's probably just a really good, like, basic chocolate chip, I would think.
Robb, my favorite cookie is one more. But the truth of the matter is, yeah, when you can't mess around with a really good chocolate chip, it's going to be good. Oatmeal raisin's good too. Oatmeal raisin is good because then you could say, oh, it's healthy.
It's got fruit and oats.
Yeah, raisins fruit. But let's not lie. When you get a good chocolate chip, it's dynamite. Yeah.
Okay.
Like going back to the table with a plate load of oatmeal cookies, and we both thought it was chocolate chip, and they were like, "Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's just not a chocolate chip."
Right. Yeah. This happened.
Okay. So you guys have done pretty well at those, which is great. Now the hard question, and it's a question for both of you. Which is the other's favorite episode of Star Trek?
Episode. Oof.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, Jordan, is yours the Gorgon episode?
Well, no, but absolutely not. But it's actually probably my least favorite, but it's the one I talk about the most, and the children shall lead. Robb's favorite is definitely TOS Spock heavy. And it might be This Side of Paradise. Spock with the spores.
I do enjoy a good Spock spore. Yeah. I don't think
She wants to pronounce his name. She wants to know his first name. And Spock says she can't pronounce it. See, that's funny. See, Spock is the greatest comedian that ever lived.
It's funny to me.
Oh, yeah.
Of course she could pronounce it, but no. I don't know. Is that your favorite? No, or is it? I mean,
Do you
City
have
of
a
Ninja
favorite?
Forever.
That's hard.
You know,
That's hard to decide. That's the thing.
I have to admit, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm really not one for saying this is my absolute favorite thing, because depending on my mood or depending on where I am in my headspace or what's going on in the world, I'm going to gravitate to different episodes at different times.
Yeah, if you're feeling kind of like up for something fun, you know, or if you want adventure, you're going to like DS9 Blood Oath. If you want something, you know, very emotional, Sitting on the Edge of Forever. I can say I know the episode for me that just radicalized me as a Star Trek fan. Just because I had, you know, my walk with Star Trek was beginning, and I had seen Star Trek 4 in the theaters and blew me away. And I'm starting to stay up late and watch it on Channel 11 in the New York area. And I loved Taste of Armageddon. Just was like, oh my God, this is just brilliant. And then it was seeing Mirror Mirror for the first time. And the first time you see, oh, we got an ion storm, like, oh, that's not good. And then you see the ship. Well, I don't have the ship, but let's pretend that this is the ship here. And then you see the ship just do this. I'm like, and then it's like this. I'm like, somehow I intuited. I knew what this was. They're in Mirrorland. I don't know how. Then it cuts to commercial, and then it says Mirror Mirror. I'm like, they really are in Mirrorland. Oh my God! And you see the Spock's beard and everything. I was literally pacing. I was like 10 years old, pacing in the guest room where I was allowed to watch, where I wasn't really supposed to watch TV that late, but I was allowed to go in there and watch TV. So didn't have a TV in my bedroom, but I can go in the guest room, and I was like bouncing off the walls in between that reveal of Spock with the beard and then the commercial. And then when it said Mirror Mirror, just everything fell apart.
Oh, little Jordan. Little Jordan.
I had no one to talk to. See, that's the thing. I needed a Star Trek friend, because who was I going to talk to at that point? My parents were asleep. My oldest sister thought Star Trek was the worst. And also it was 11:15 at night. I was supposed to be asleep. But and then I went to school and nobody was watching old Star Trek then. Back then, Star Trek was the least cool thing in the world, you know.
Yeah, Star Trek fans today don't know how good they have it.
They really don't.
And not just Star Trek, the whole thing. You could read comic books in public and not be mortified.
Yep.
You could read books in public.
Right. Allison, what's your favorite Star Trek episode?
See, I knew somebody was going to ask that, actually, because I don't know that I'm a little like Rob. I think that depending on how my mood is going, as a genre, I really like the kind of Brennan Braga body horror type ones. But if I had to pick one, it would probably be Rascals.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I love absolutely. It's a caper and it's silly and it's got a lot of humor, and I love the kids in it. I love Rowan Guinan. I just love that whole I love it. Love it.
Rascals is way up on the list for me. That's top tier for sure. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the other ones that I like are like really questionable.
When you said the body, which is the one where they all revert to their primordial state? Genesis, I think it's called,
Genesis,
right?
Yeah, I can never remember the name of that one. Yeah, that one. And I like the ones where like, what's the one where Riker's like inside the play, he's been captured. That one I can never remember the name of.
Frame of Mind.
That's the one. Yeah, I love all of those ones that really kind of scramble your mind grapes.
Frame of Mind is great, and also the one called First Contact, where BB Newirth gets down with Riker. I mean, that's essential. That's real quality stuff. They're all good. I love them all. The worst episode of Star Trek is still great because it's Star Trek.
Yeah,
like the absolute worst episode. You're like, I like that guy. You know, we're hanging out with him again. It's not so bad. Look at the cool ship.
Yeah, and that's one of the best things about having Star Trek friendships, sorry to cheesily bring it back to the topic at hand, is
Please.
because you can, there's always, always, always something to talk about. Always.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You never run out, which is great.
Can I just want to mention, since we're one last thing that may that people who are thinking about buying the book should know is that there is a really nifty foreword by Ethan Phillips and Robert Picardo that I was very lucky to sort of be there to help guide that, because this, again, it was all during the pandemic. So although it may seem when you're reading that they're together in a room, and actually it was the magic of behind the scenes work. But what's great, two things. Number one is that some of the proceeds of the book are going to the Planetary Society, which is Picardo is one of the brand ambassadors of the, he's on the board, and the Planetary Society is really cool. And the other thing is Picardo and Phillips, I'm sure most of your viewers know, they truly are very, very good friends. They knew each other for, I don't know, 15 years or so or longer before Voyager ever happened. They were part of the same clique of friends in New York. They tell a very funny story about how they were often up for the same parts. And over the years, Picardo would get a part and then realize that Phillips was second on the list, and then vice versa. Phillips would get a part and Picardo was up for it. So that added a little tension to their friendship, but it is a true friendship. And I've been very, very lucky over the years going to the conventions, the Star Trek cruise. I was once at a convention in Germany where I got to sit in a taxi with the two of them for a long time. And it's not for the stage. It's a true, genuine friendship that they have that's lasted now decades. So when Rob's thinking we got to do a forward for this, Rob, you just said maybe Ethan and Bob would want to do it, and it was like we did not have to twist their arms. It was an instant, like, sure, what do you, no sweat. Because what did it mean? It meant that we had to do a Zoom, and the two guys would have to chat. And I got the sense, having been the one that got to put it together, they would have been doing that anyhow. Like, it was a case of like, okay, talk to you next week. Like, it's a common thing for them to keep tabs on each other, which, all the Star Trek alumni love one another, of course, but these two guys really do. So it was really very nice to see that.
Yeah, that comes across in the forward, definitely. Cool. Well, listen, the Star Trek Book of Friendship comes out on May 10th, available pretty much everywhere, and I believe you can pre-order it now, depending on where you go.
Absolutely should.
Where can folks find you guys out and about on the internet if they would like to keep in touch with you?
You can visit my website. Oh, there's
Jordan,
one of my
stop
favorite
it.
images.
You're being distracting.
But this is the page that has only just one line. Go
on.
Go on. It's great. Great shot.
I'm sorry, Rob. After you were so rudely cut off.
I can't remember what we were talking about.
We're talking about where can people find you on the internet?
You can just go to my website, robbpearlman.com, and I'm on the Twitter for now, and Facebook and Instagram. It's all my name.
Okay, and we can see some of your previous books, because I know, like, you mentioned Starfleet is, and you've got other Star Trek books as well as other fandom books in there too.
Yeah, I'm up to about 50 books so far.
Wow.
It's a really great one that Rob just wrote. It's a really nice book. It's called Love Like a Vulcan. Sorry.
Live Like a Vulcan.
Live Like a Vulcan. Love Like a Wookiee.
Don't love like a Vulcan. That's rubbish.
No. Laugh Like a Hobbit. And what this is, this is a great. I wish this book existed when my niece and nephew were a little younger, because it's a really great book to give to a kid, like, as they're entering middle school. Like, they're going to have to negotiate society, and there are really good lessons from pop culture that Rob has put in here. Of course, I read it, and and I am not in middle school. I'm much, much older, and I found great material in there. But this is one of the hundreds of Robb Pearlman books that you should read. They're terrific.
Thank you, my publicist. Thank you.
Yes.
I was going to say. And Jordan, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at J Hoffman, and I write about movies and entertainment and stuff across the panoply of networks. You can read my work, but I'm available to chat with anybody about Star Trek at any time. Always ready to waste time talking about Star Trek instead of doing my work. So
slide into your DMs to
yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both again. So Robb Pearlman and Jordan Hoffman, authors of the Star Trek Book of Friendship, and it's out on May 10th, wherever your good books are sold. Thank you both so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here.
You got
Thank
it.
you.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.